Do you believe in the existence of extraterrestrials? Tell me I'm crazy.
Mulder, you're crazy.
I can't give up. Not as long as the truth is out there. I want to believe.
Welcome to this episode of the X-Files with your hosts Mark and Becky. Hi Becky.
Hello.
Where have we been? We disappeared, didn't we? No, we've been kind of life's caught up with us, and because we do the Twin Peaks log as well, and that's on a strict deadline because Twin Peaks season 3 starting soon. We kind of, if we did have time to record, we kind of done that, right? So that's unfortunate. Yeah. We're not going in with the X-Files. X-Files is still one of our loves, right? But we just had to sort of shelve it a bit. You know, as we're getting near to the end of season 2 of the X-Files now, Twin Peaks now, hopefully our X-Files visits will be much more, you know, regular. Maybe not quite weekly, but a bit more frequent. It's been, I think, Cold Chat was about 3 weeks ago. That was the last one we did. Anyway, let's get straight into this one. All right, we are covering tonight episode of season 3, episode 21, Avatar, and 22, Quagmire. Of the X-Files. But before we get into that, I've got a little bit of feedback. I don't often get this, but this is more, I asked for feedback about the general podcasting from the good, the bad, and the odds, you know, which is the main cast and things like the X-Files, and so on. And I got some nice feedback, and some of it was X-Files specific, so I thought I'd sort of pick the bones out of that. One piece of feedback we got from Ian Davies, who said, the X-Files is something I can always listen to and plan to revisit the series myself soon. I want to introduce my daughter to it. It's an excellent show if you've got a sort of early teens youngster to watch, I think. Some of it's a bit grim, isn't it, I suppose?
Yeah.
But it's quite a good show. Certainly mid-teens is fine, I'd say, mostly. Ian went on to say, timing's been good for me too with the Twin Peaks podcast, as I watched the original one for the first time recently, so it's good for me to get other thoughts on it. Wow, how about that? Good timing, right? I'm hoping you're finding it interesting, us goofing about over Twin Peaks. We do enjoy it a lot. And he also said, I'm also a huge Stephen King fan in book and movie format. So basically, Ian, if I can't make you happy, I'm not going to make anyone happy, right? With the stuff I do. Okay, so thanks for that, Ian. Another piece of feedback we got from Jules Boyle. It says, as far as the X-Files go, a short recap of the plot at the start of each episode will be good. Sometimes when it's straight into the analysis, I struggle to remember which one it is. And I did say at the time, that's a great idea. So we're going to try and do that. I'll do my very best to try and remember to do that. So we'll give you a little recap of the episode as well as the credits and stuff. So good suggestion there, Jules. Thanks for that. That was our X-Files feedback. Right, okay. Let's have a little music as we want to do to lead us into this episode 21, Avatar.
All my life and the hereafter, I've never seen one like you. You're a knife, sharp and deadly, and it's me that you cut into. But I don't mind. In fact, I like it. Though I'm terrified, I'm turned on, but scared of you. Oh, she's a monster, beautiful monster, beautiful monster. But I don't mind. Oh, and I need
Okay, so episode 21, Avatar, directed by James Charleston, written by Howard Gordon. Howard Gordon, you know, he's X-Files stalwart, isn't he, really? And there is a note against the writing credit with development by David Duchovny. I think Duchovny kind of came up with the idea for this one, or specifically wanted Mitch Pileggi to sort of take a more central role in at least one episode, you know, so Skinner sort of came on a bit. Here's the short recap of the plot. During a one-night stand in the midst of his divorce, Assistant Director Skinner becomes a murder suspect. Mulder and Scully return the many favours that he's done for them by trying to determine what actually happened, all the while discovering more about Skinner's personal affairs. That's a fair enough recap, I guess, without giving anything away. What was your general feeling on this one? We'll go through the sort of plot details in a bit. Did you enjoy this one?
I loved it, yeah. And I think it's about time that we got, you know, a story that's centred on Skinner.
Yeah.
And it's a great character study. And again, it really kind of fleshes out his relationship with Mulder and Scully. Yeah.
And there were some elements to it I found a bit a bit loose-endy. Let's put it that way, and not quite coherent. But I also enjoyed the episode quite a lot. Very noirish in places, right?
Definitely.
And I definitely felt it had a familial tie to a film called Don't Look Now. Which do you know that film?
Yes, is this with the red coat?
With the what appears to be a little girl in a red coat. Donald Sutherland and Julie Christie are a couple in Venice. I believe. No, hold on. Anyway, they're a couple, and their daughter dies in a tragic accident. But she had a red coat, and then I think Donald Sutherland keeps seeing this sort of short figure in a red coat who turns out to be a weird little old lady dwarf thing that's a bit scary. Anyway, let's get on to back to the X-Files. So we have Skinner having a scene where he's kind of resisting signing his divorce papers. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. And I've seen this trope in other things. You know, guys cannot accept they're getting divorced and resisting signing divorce papers. It's kind of common in TV. Isn't it? Would you say?
Yeah. Dream On springs to mind as well.
Yeah, indeed. The TV series, the comedy series Dream On. That very first episode of that is all about that, right? He just will not sign the divorce papers. And Skinner is in a bar, and here's my notes on this. I say he picks up a hot blonde, kissy. That's what. Which it kind of is, and it's kind of a bit saucy. This, right?
Yeah, another link to Don't Look Now with that infamous sex scene.
Don't Look Now has a very infamous sex scene indeed, but you can go Google that if you want to. I don't mean to watch it, because that would be perfect. I mean, read about it. There's all this kissy. He's kind of, I don't know, not drunk, but he's kind of a bit out of it, isn't he? He's like sleepy or something. And then during it, he kind of sees an old woman is she kind of descending on him? Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Close, right? And he wakes up like he's in a bad dream. But when he wakes up, the blonde lady's dead, and her head's twisted around. Whoa! Head twisting around is a voodoo-y thing, right? Or certainly, or maybe witchcraft. It's certainly got a sinister overtone. I mean, other than the obvious that someone's head's twisted around. It does mean something, I think, in voodoo and stuff, and supernatural things. Made me think of have you ever seen a film called Dust Devil?
No.
Well, it's this like incubus character picking up women, and he kind of twists their head at a sort of moment of maximum pleasure, let's say. It just made me think of that a bit. So, what's Skinner been up to, right? We don't know, right? We get the titles. I always love them titles. We see Mulder's there. Skinner's called in homicide, right? But Mulder rocks up. And the detective tells Mulder what's happened, the basic layout of the thing, and he says that Skinner refuses to take a polygraph test. All right? Well, a bit suspicious, isn't it? And Mulder then asks Scully to go down to the coroner's office to go see the body. And then we get a scene of Scully doing her observations of the body. She gets free access to everyone dead, doesn't she, old Scully? There's no procedure to this. She just has a go, kind of thing. Do you think
She really does?
She
Yeah.
really does every time. But we accept that because we're used to it, right? And they're wondering if Skinner submitted to like this violent act in a sort of vulnerable moment. Her spinal cord's been crushed, which is pretty strong on, and Skinner's prints are kind of everywhere, which isn't surprising, right? It's going to happen, right? But they do a bit of digging. They find out she was actually part of an escort service, right? So she's not entirely what she seems, it would appear.
Yeah.
Anyway, after the after the autopsy stuff, or looking at the body kind of stuff, Scully turns the light off, but she noticed there's like glowing residue around the face, the lips, and the nose of the woman, right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Lighting was really good in this. I really kind of enjoyed it. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then Mulder and Scully go and interview the madam of the escort service. Because they found that Skinner's credit card's been used to pay for the night before, right? So that kind of points to possibly Skinner knew what he was doing when it was in terms of escorts.
Yeah, which is quite suspect because, he's not that silly.
No. You'd cash, wouldn't you?
Exactly. So,
and I think there's a line here that was kind of maybe I'll roll it out a bit. It was kind of fun, which is business is booming, and I think it's Mulder that says, "I think you mean banging."
that's definitely a Mulder quote.
Yeah. You'll have to forgive us because I've watched this pretty much straight after our last recording. It's been like 3 weeks, so I'm a little rusty. However, it's quite a memorable episode, so it's not too difficult.
Yeah.
It's it's one of those ones you remember. I thought.
Yeah.
I can't remember the deets. I couldn't remember the details, the specifics of it, but I definitely remember the mood and the vibe, and certainly the opening scene, and what Skinner's going through. And then the Mulder and Scully tell the madame that the woman was murdered. I noticed that in this one, Scully's being all kind of judgy. She gets schoolmarmish, doesn't she, old Scully, sometimes?
Yeah, she does. And again, that's really interesting in regards to Skinner and the way that Mulder just really from the outset wants to believe him.
Yeah. I like the fact that Scully's really like, we don't know that much about him, and like Mulder's kind of, look, he's had our back and all this, right? So is all that, but I think it's not just the fact, it's the fact that I think Scully's a little repressed or something. She's uptight, right? I mean, we've seen this before, haven't we?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think which episodes, but we've definitely seen this before, Oh, yeah, no, I remember it's Gender Bender, right? So she said something in that one. I can't believe people would go have a one-night stand in this day and age. She was doing all that. It made me laugh. Yeah, right, Scully. So they go off and they find Skinner. He really doesn't want to talk about it at all, does he? But then Mulder drops that the woman was a prostitute, and he seems Skinner's kind of shocked. He wasn't aware. It becomes apparent he wasn't aware, and Mulder picks up on that. And then Skinner sees a woman in a red coat, an older woman in a red coat, which he thinks is the old woman he saw in the room, and sort of follows her. And it turns out that it's not the old woman, but it's his own wife. Right?
Yeah.
Weird, right? Weird.
Yeah.
This bit I had trouble with, but we'll probably talk about this more as we go on. This old woman business, really. Skinner leaves. Scully's kind of been a bit was around, and she finds out all that's been going on from the wife. About the fact that Skinner's distant and not a great husband, and all this, that, and the other. Then I think it's Scully who talks to Mulder, I think it's the wife that talks to Mulder and says, "Do you think he did it?" And Mulder's like, "No, I don't think he did." Can you remember who it was actually?
That was Mulder.
Yeah. So Mulder doesn't think he did it, right? there's another agent at Skinner's office when they rock up checking things, and he tells Mulder and Scully they need to come to a formal hearing about Skinner's ability to do his job. It's from the Office of Professional Responsibility. That sounds very grand, doesn't it? Scully's still very dubious, and she kind of points out Skinner seems to have a behaviour of someone who's guilty, right? So, but Mulder won't have it, right? But Scully Scully's kind of, when the writing's good, Scully makes some really good points, doesn't she? Mulder tends to tear them down, but she does make good points. She says the fact is he doesn't remember, so we don't know what he's done. Because if he can't remember, it's quite possible he could have done it and not realised. And then she sells Mulder a video of a REM sleep behaviour disorder. And then she also mentions that Skinner's been treated for a recurring dream involving an old woman who speaks to him, who he can't understand. So, we find a bit more out about Skinner's possible psychological problems, or certainly sleep disorder problems. So Mulder starts talking about succubus, right? Now, there's something weird here. You're a supernatural. You know a fair bit about the supernatural, I think, right? You do. I think you know more than me. But they say that the succubus is usually an older woman. That's not my understanding of what a succubus is. What do you know about it?
I believe so in kind of more traditional law, but with contemporary kind of media. The succubus is a younger woman that uses her kind of beauty to lure men. I think that it's going to do my head in now. There's a television series.
Yeah.
It's going to absolutely do my head in. And yeah, she's a young woman. As such. But also, I think they may have the power to change their appearance, but their actual form is that of an old woman.
Oh,
like
really?
A witch.
Okay, well, I've learned something.
I could be wrong.
That sounded like nonsense to me, but I don't know much about it. So, I always thought it's supposed to be a young
nonsense.
Well, no, not what you're saying. What they were saying in the show, that it's usually an old woman. Because I thought, really? I thought it was supposed to be young, attractive. An incubus and succubus were always young and attractive. But it's probably more modern culture, like you say, right?
Yeah.
So there's also mention of sometimes a glow is associated with succubus activity, and I think Scully thinks back to the glow on the woman's lips and nose from that. And I think Scully takes him to show him, but the glow's not there anymore. Scully had the presence of mind to actually take a sample from the woman and send it off, but it turns out all it was saliva. And she also then sent it again to as a second opinion. Scully's very thorough, right? But that time they said there was nothing in the container, so whatever it was, it kind of disappeared. And then we get a scene where Skinner's boozing in a mood. It's all moody and sort of noirish, right? And then we see his wife at the door in a red hood, a bit like this old woman he saw in the rain. This is the bit that made me think of Don't Look Now, right? Red hood, all that. He's gone to his house, right, to try and talk to his wife, I think.
His wife's come to him, I think.
Oh, sorry, got it the other way around. Yeah, she's come to him.
Yeah, because she says, doesn't she, that he always has these walls up, and that's part of the reason why I think she wanted to leave him, because he just wouldn't let her in.
Yeah, I mean, Skinner's mean, moody, and magnificent, right? So,
he is.
That's what it's going to do. That's what people like that do, right? That's how he is. But we see that his stuff is still in the boxes in the house, right? He's kind of not unpacked or anything like that. He's having a look around. He looks at his wedding picture, and then he falls asleep. And when he wakes, he sees an old woman screaming in a mirror, which is kind of freaky. And then some detectives knock and tell him his wife's been injured when she was run off the road. And they want to take him in, and they want his car keys. So he's a suspect about his own wife being run off the road, right? Meanwhile, the wife's in surgery, and And Skinner opens up to Mulder about this old woman he keeps seeing. He says he saw her in his time in Vietnam. He would, he was having a terrible time in Vietnam. We've heard about the Vietnam story before, haven't we? When he was like pretty much in an offensive that virtually no one survived, and he did. And he starts talking about he took drugs. He saw her then, and he said she was there watching him as he died. And he reckons that she carried him back. So she's somewhat of a guardian angel, perhaps?
Yeah. I like this bit, how they tied that into the other episode. But I really thought up to this point, until his wife had the car accident, that it was some form of maybe witchcraft on her behalf.
Right. But this old woman appears to have been around before his wife, presumably, if it was back from Vietnam.
No, yeah, totally. But before he kind of revealed that, with the wife and the way that she was in the red hood, I was thinking, is this some kind of way that she's getting back at him or whatever? But her demeanour doesn't really suggest that.
No,
the way she is with him, their relationship. But it was just the way that, the red kind of cloak.
Yeah.
I thought that might be something. But I really like the way they tied it into was it Sleepless?
Yes, I believe so. I believe it was Sleepless. I'm not sure, but I think so, yeah. Because that seems appropriate for that to come up. But in this scene, we find out that it can't be what it could have, what it appeared it might be, because the old one was around before his wife, right? Interesting little aside here. They're talking in an interview room, and then we see the cigarette smoking man watching them through two-way glass. So we're getting a hint more of conspiracy again, right? Because the CSM's like in there watching what's going on. We get Agent Pendrell, the one guy that's got a crush on Scully, pop up in this one, right? He's expecting an airbag on Skinner's car, and he's got some software that should be able to reconstruct the face that's been pressed into the airbag. Right, that's kind of interesting. It's all, again, we get a bit of moody rain shots and all that business, right? And that's fine. Very, very rainy city during this episode. And then there's a hearing where Scully defends Skinner, but she's dismissed.
And Mulder doesn't show up, does he?
Yeah, we do find out.
He loves doing that.
Oh, yeah, he's always... Mulder thinks all of this is all about the X-Files. He thinks it's trying to undermine the X-Files by removing Skinner from the equation, right? And he gets from Pendrell, he gets the face in the airbag, and presumes it's the guy that tried to kill Skinner's wife, and it's all a setup. Scully works out, just intuits that this guy must have hired the prostitute, and it is a setup. So they kind of go along with that, right? Then they go back to see the madame, and they find she's so-called jumped, air quotes, jumped from a building, right? And there's her assistant there, who's called Judy. I've just made a note of that. And they ask her to identify the guy, and he gets identified as the man who set up the woman in the first place. So Mulder comes to the conclusion that guy's cleaning house, right? They ask Judy to set up a meeting if she can, and Mulder says the time and the place. Okay, so in the meanwhile, Skinner goes and sees his wife who's in the hospital. Oh man, there's a lot of purple prose in this one. It feels very Chris Carter. I know he's not supposed to have written this, but it feels quite Chris Carter. It was all right though. What did you thought?
That was quite sweet, and it was nice to see that side of him.
Bit chit flip for me, to be honest. No, it was all right. It was fine. But then her heart fails, and he calls, but then he sees her turn into the old woman, right?
Yeah.
And then his wife comes back, and she's all right. Her heart restarted. So again, we get this old woman. Is she a guardian angel of some sort? Who knows? Mulder's at the designated time place, but there's lots of people moving around, and they're in room 1413, which I think's got a meaningful thing in X-Files, but I can't remember now. So they've set up this kind of contact, and it's all a bit moody, and people are kind of watching other people and all that business. Judy's around too, kind of helping out. I think she's been coerced into it by these two, really. And then Scully finds Judy, who's in the bathroom. She asks if she's okay, and she acts like she's okay, but there's actually a man behind the door, right? And then we hear gunshots. Mulder runs in, and Skinner's shot this guy. Skinner's turned up. It turns out this guy that's been shot can't be identified, and there's no links back to anything. So basically, it appears to have been a setup involving this guy, but there's no links back to anyone else. And then we see Skinner back to normal, and it all seems okay. But Mulder says, "How do you know where to be?" And he says, and he won't tell him, will he? He won't tell him.
No.
And then we see everyone leave, and we see Skinner put his wedding ring back on. So a moody episode with some sort of open-ended stuff, really, especially the old lady business, right?
Yeah, because she's told Skinner where to go.
Presumably.
So she saved his wife, saved him, and told him where to be to save Scully and the young woman.
So, is it a guardian angel? Is it Skinner's own subconscious? What's going on?
If it was his subconscious, it still wouldn't explain how he would know where to go.
Oh, that's an excellent point. So it must be supernatural, we think.
Unless, and this is really like getting into conspiracy, I mean, when they set up the meeting, the bad guys are outside in the car watching them in the diner set up the meeting with the girl. She pretends to be scared, doesn't she? She wants to, get out of everything. So unless Skinner was involved with them.
Possibly. I'm going to go with the supernatural because it's kind of... it works a little better in terms of coherence. I know it's like, let's go to supernatural makes more sense in this case, right, than a more convoluted, sort of non-supernatural explanation, actually. Sorry? No, go on.
I'm just going to say, it's just for the X-Files. Normally, they tread that line in a cleverer way. Then, it has to be one or the other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it is kind of that. It is ambiguous enough. It can be one or the other. Really, it's just it's a bit of a stretch for it to be the non-supernatural rationale, right? Could it have been luck? Could he have found out where Mulder and Scully was? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, then what would you
get him tagged?
What? It could be one of Scully's implants or something. What would you give this one out of 10?
I'm going to give this one a 7.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 7. It was pretty nice and mean and moody, wasn't it? It was mean and moody, and it was nice to have Skinner centre stage as well. Skinner's pretty awesome, actually. So I kind of enjoyed that. There wasn't many laughs in this. There wasn't much Mulder and Scully bants. But it was it worked well. I mean, they were reasonably front and centre too, right? But they didn't have any of the, the Mulder and Scully bants, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything else to say about this one?
Not really.
No.
Like I say, it was nice to see it centred on Skinner, and he was naked for quite a bit, which was nice.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay then, cool. I'll tell you what, let's have a little musical interlude, and we'll get into the next episode.
You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific mad slaughters. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. You hear stories of monsters in the waters, endless counts of horrific mad slaughters. Sailors tell tales of beasts on the sea. What they don't tell you is that the worst one is me. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? What we gonna do with sea monsters? We gonna kill them and grill them. We be the nautical monsters. Smacking the kraken and on his flesh we be snacking. The pepper we packing's enough to burn up and blacken. The sea monsters be a meal.
Okay, episode 22 of season 3. So we're getting near the end of season 3 now. There's only 2 more left after this one. Episode 22 is Quagmire, directed by Kim Manners, written by Kim Newton, though I understand it had quite a lot of a significant amount of rewriting from... what's his name? I've forgotten his name. The one who writes the awesome episodes. Oh, I've gone blank.
Darren Morgan.
Darren Morgan, yeah. I think he did some rewriting on it. It's the last time his pen does get involved with the X-Files up until the most recent series. He did write one of the previous episodes, not, a few episodes before this. I can't remember which one it was. It was the one after the coprophages. But he also did a bit of rewriting on this one too. Aired for the first time in the US on the 3rd of May 1996. Here's a little recap of the episode. This is really short, by the way. In a small town, Mulder and Scully investigate rumours of a prehistoric lake monster called Big Blue. I mean, that's enough, really, right? So what's going on? Quite enjoyed this one. I like this little look into this world. Basically, we're finding out that frogs are kind of disappearing from this lake, right? The numbers are going down. We're getting 2 scientists wandering around. One's a superior who's a bit obviously peeved about the more concerned junior partner in this pair, who's obviously really concerned about it, but one's a bit more. It turns out while they're there, the superior loses his bleeper, and he has to go look for it, right? And then suddenly, quite an effective scene. All the bird noise just stops, right? And Summit is approaching him from the water, and then we see him get pulled in screaming, right? And then the credits roll. Pretty good opening scene. Really quite enjoyed it. What's your thoughts?
Definitely, and this is one of my favourite kind of subgenres of the series, which is ecological or environmental horror, as well as like mythology as well, with the monster aspect. So,
yeah. I think they do ecological horror very well in the X-Files. Actually, I think it's probably one of the more successful subgenres, I'd say.
I think so.
It's always fun. It adds ties to any films it make you think of. This one.
Any films? Frogs.
Frogs. What about stuff like Lake Placid, maybe, or stuff about alligators coming out of lakes, or any of that stuff?
Yeah, Rogue, all those kind of films.
Rogue,
yeah,
yes,
kind of sci-fi ones.
Okay, so the credits roll, and then we get Queequeg, the little dog Queequeg yapping away. Queequeg. It's nice to have a callback, right?
Yeah.
And we get so Queequeg's on the back seat, right, while they're driving. Is that right?
Yeah. In a rented vehicle.
Yes, and there's some really great lines in this that feel very Darren Morgan to me. Scully's, as Queequeg yaps, Scully says, "Nature's calling. We need to pull over." And Mulder's like, "Do you have to bring that thing?" Scully makes a good, it's very nice, a very nice piece of exposition jammed into the Mulder and Scully patter, right? Says, "You wake me up on Saturday morning, tell me to be ready in 5 minutes, and my mother's out of town, all the dog sitters are booked. I feel like kennels, and then you moan about me bringing the dog," kind of thing. It's really nice, well set up. It sets it all up really well, how it all sort of turns out. Mulder's kind of interested because of some other disappearances around this lake, right? He mentions 2 weeks before the head of a Boy Scout troop disappeared. And he's telling her about this disappearance, and Scully's like, she's kind of looking at him and like, "Okay, what are you leaving out?" And just then we see a big sign saying about Big Blue, the prehistoric lake monster. Scully's like, "You're not serious." Very nice. I definitely enjoyed the banter in this one. Very solid. Mulder and Scully then go talk to the scientist that wasn't killed, and Mulder happens to raise Big Blue. And this side, I really like the dialogue. Any thoughts on the dialogue here when he answers Mulder's question about Big Blue?
I love it. Brilliant dialogue here. And when he talks about, are you aware of any indigenous species that are capable of attacking a human being? And he says, yes, another human being. It's just, I love how
excellent
just
line.
so logical and just completely cuts down Mulder's kind of line.
Yeah, he properly bones Mulder in his type, right? He's going on about pseudoscientists. They make up spurious nonsense because they can't face, the more simple, rational and realistic explanation for stuff. And it's all this. It's proper. I feel like it's Darren Morgan having a proper dig at Mulder's character. It made me laugh. Anyway, Mulder still can persist. He's talking about cryptozoology, plesiosaurs, all this stuff. They go into a gift shop, and apparently this shop's got a scale of Big Blue, an actual scale. Wow. They go looking for something, and a guy sells them a map. And suggests that what's going on is probably Big Blue. This reminds me of an earlier episode, really early on in season 1, where Mulder goes and buys a map to Lake Ojiboji, sorry, I'm murdering that now. And when he buys it, Scully goes to him, sucker. It kind of reminded me of that episode. And then someone suggests, if you want to talk to a real expert, talk to Ansel. They go talk to Ansel, and he obviously thinks it's Big Blue, who he's never actually seen. He's been trying to get a picture forever, right, and he's never actually seen it, but he's convinced it's Big Blue. Yeah, right, okay. And then we get a bit of a bait and switch here. It was kind of fun. We see a fisherman baiting a hook, but his line, something hard gets pulled on his line, so... I don't know. I was expecting him to get pulled in by the monster. Did you get anything like that?
Yeah, me too. And it reminded me of the scene in Godzilla on the pier.
Okay, yes. But what happens is something's hard pulling, but he pulls up the body, right?
Yeah.
And he goes into the sheriff. He says, "We got a floater," and it turns out it's half a body, right? And of the scout leader, half a body. And I think there's a bit of discussion about, it could have been the fish had just been chewing on him, and he says, what, just half of him? There's a bit of that. And then we see later that night the owner of the bait and tackle shops walking through the swamp in sorry, my teeth are a bit dinosaur-shaped boots, right, like the feet of dinosaurs. He's making fake tracks, right? And it's kind of funny that he then... Well, funny, I say that. I'm sounding a bit sick now. He gets attacked and killed, right? But one of the boots gets left at the scene. So scary. Yeah. And then we see Ansel back taking photographs of tracks. And Scully turns up with Queequeg and the sheriff. But then Scully, immediately, the first thing when she sees the tracks are, Scully says, these are way too shallow for a large monster. They'll be way deeper than this. But Queequeg kind of runs off and finds the boot, right? There's blood on it as well. Then we get a call back to War of the Caprophages, the teenagers who were smoking poo in War of the Caprophages have turned up at this place. This time they're licking toads, which is slightly better. If you had a choice, Becky, would you rather smoke poo or lick a toad?
I think I'd lick the toad.
Me too. There's no way I'm smoking poo. But licking toad, I could do it. I would rather not, frankly, but if I had to choose one, that would be one for me. And while they're doing that, a diver suddenly pops up. And then he gets attacked, and we see all blood bubbling. It's proper gory, actually, isn't it? And then we see his head just bob up, and it is just his head, right? So it's like, yeah. So there's something going on in this lake for sure, and it ain't the fish, right? Mulder and Scully then turn up at this crime scene, and the sheriff's talking to the teenagers. And the sheriff reckons, well, there's still enough boats around. It might have been a boating accident, right? This kind of damage. So we then get Ansel off on his own. He's baited something for the monster, and he's kind of trying to take pictures. But he gets attacked too. But the everyone finds they find his camera, but Ansel's missing. Mulder suggests they shut the lake, and the sheriff won't do it. Right, so we're getting a bit of the Jaws vibe.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, the X-Files have done this before with the episode called Jersey Devil. That kind of happened in that episode. So, but basically, it's like, you know, shut it for the good of the people. No, it's bad for business. It's that kind of thing. The sheriff won't do it. And I kind of get it, because the sheriff, in this case, is much more rational. The sheriff literally hasn't got the manpower to do it. It's more that than, you know, sort of vested commercial interests, right? Then the sheriff's kind of by the lakeside, and he gets pulled in. They manage to recover him, and he says he felt something big under there. And then he orders the lake's got to be closed, right? I think, does he call the National Guard or something? But whatever, he kind of realises he needs to close the lake because there's something dodgy there. Then they look at the Ansel's pictures, but they're not that clear. I think Mulder's trying to see things, and Scully's like, it's kind of like that. Scully takes Queequeg for a walk, but poor old Queequeg runs off, and we hear a yelp, right? Not happy about this.
No, that really upset me.
Were you both? Yeah. It was sad, right? Because Queequeg's all right, you know. And I kind of wouldn't mind seeing Queequeg in other episodes as well. So Scully, all she does is manage to pull a collar back to herself, right?
Yeah.
And then we kind of see Scully is kind of a bit upset about the dog, what happened to the dog. But Mulder's, you know, he's driven, isn't he? He starts going on about the sightings and moving closer to this part of the shore. Scully's not happy. I think she kind of wants to go find the thing that did this, right? There's a touch of that. Did you feel that?
Yeah, I think so.
Revenge. Mulder asks if she could drive a boat, and then they go out on a boat, which is the most... This is like Mulder and Scully doing what stupid people do in horror films, right? It really is. It's like, oh, guys, please. Anyway, they go out on a boat, and they get sound readings. Then the boat hits something and starts to sink, and they climb onto a rock. So they're kind of stranded on this rock. Mulder's wondering if they should swim, but they can't see the shore, and they don't know what's out there, right? So it's really dodgy. It's pitch black as well, right? And they can't really see too far. And Scully's kind of annoyed at Mulder and, you know, the way he acts. And she tells him that his future he's just going to be Ansel, you know, the equivalent of Ansel, which we've talked about this before, right? You know, Mulder's going to turn into the lone gunman at some point, or one of these crazy guys, or, you know, what's his name? Max Fennig, wasn't it? Max Fennig.
Yes.
Turn into that type. And Scully kind of makes a point. She basically doesn't understand Mulder's reasons for his search anymore. Then they see something and pull a gun on it, and it turns out it's a duck. So they're kind of stuck on this rock. And there's a bit of comedy dialogue. Do you want to expand on that?
Talking about whether or not they could actually eat somebody.
Yeah. Could you cannibalise under certain circumstances? Isn't it? So that. But then Mulder, after this discussion where they kind of agree, oh yeah, we could, I suppose, really, if it got to it. And Mulder says, "You've lost some weight recently, haven't you?" Oh dear.
It's the way she's like, you know, yeah, actually, thanks for noticing. And she looks at him like, "Rrr."
Yeah. They kind of also then they start talking about Scully starts talking about you know, how old she was with her father. She sort of tells Mulder she called him Ahab and he called her Starbuck, so that's why she called the dog Queequeg.
She's really nice, I think, really sweet.
Yeah, but it does lead to this point about what she says, that he's like Ahab, right? So he's so driven, everything else is insignificant. And starts really laying into him, doesn't he? He says, you know, everything happens to you takes on some sort of warped significance because you're a megalomaniac about it. And Mulder says, "Scully, are you coming on to me?" It's very funny. And Mulder then drops the line, yeah, I always wanted a peg leg. Always made me laugh. But Mulder's obviously, we forget sometimes, Mulder's supposed to be a genius, right? And he's read Moby Dick, and he can quote it back to her, right? And he says his first line, his favourite line from it is, "Hell is an idea first born an undigested apple dumpling," which is kind of funny. That line always reminds me of in Scrooge, when he first sees in Christmas Carol, where Scrooge first sees one of the ghosts. He says, there's more about gravy than grave about you," he says to the ghost. It kind of made me think of that. It's a good line. Then anyway, they're stuck out on this rock and they hear splashing, so guns come out, but they've got a light, haven't they? But it kind of starts to fade, and then they see Dr. Faraday holding his torch at them. He's wading through the water. It turns out they're sitting right by the shore. Didn't realise it. And they're like, "What are you doing around here?" He says, "I'm checking the frogs." And tells them about the frog population. And Mulder's like, the frogs are dying off. That means there's less food for Big Blue, so he's got to find alternative food sources. Sounds reasonably plausible, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah.
And then the sheriff finds them and tells them someone's had an arm bit off. And Mulder insists that the cove they're in is the place it's happening, but the boats are at the place of the last attack. And then Mulder and Scully hear a scream, and we find Faraday's been attacked. He manages to make it out alive. Mulder chases the thing that attacked him and fires at it. And it turns out it's a big alligator, right?
Yep.
So it turns out it's not Big Blue at all, it's an alligator. But even so, it's an alligator. Presumably the alligator was also causing the frog population to decrease, right? If the alligator's eating the frogs. I don't know if alligators eat frogs, but let's go with that. So it turns out it's non-cryptozoological at all. It would appear, right? But what happens in the last shots? Do you want to tell us?
We see the lake, and there's something like the Loch Ness Monster.
Yeah.
Really bad graphics, and it really annoyed me at the end. I wish they'd have left it.
They were not very good. They were specifically making it look like Nessie, that famous hoop, rings of Nessie neck kind of business, wasn't it? Yeah, not very good. I kind of liked it, I have to say. You weren't a fan.
If they'd have just had the lake and held on it and maybe some bubbles or something, that'd have been better. But
or even a moving, something could have broken the surface and been indistinct, right?
Exactly,
something big.
But it was just, it was too obvious. And at the time that I watched this for the show, I was reading a book on the Loch Ness Monster.
Okay.
So that would, I don't know.
Okay.
It's a real shame because it was a decent enough episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode. Oh, there was some great dialogue. Some of the dialogue was elite, actually. But I was fine with it, to be honest, but I can see why you'd be mad. It was a bit cheap, to say the least. Right?
Yeah, it was like, usual kind of horror film trope with those, last few seconds that just ruin the film.
Yeah, always like when they kill the alien and we see a shot of some eggs or something like that. It's that kind of vibe, right? Okay, anything else to say about this one?
Just to say how great the writing was, and you can really kind of feel Darren Morgan's stamp throughout, can't you?
Yeah, his fingerprints are all over it, thankfully. Very, very nice, very nice. It's such a shame we're not going to really talk about him in terms of the X-Files until the very last season. We are going to touch on him again, because at some point we're going to be covering some of the other series, that are cousins to the X-Files, and he does write on some of those, for example, Millennium. So we are going to be talking about Darren Morgan again at some point, but it's going to be a while, and it's fairly spaced out, unfortunately, which is a shame. He's such a good writer. I suspect he's one of these guys who pours his heart and soul into it, and it's exhausting, so he doesn't do that much. But what he does do is awesome. It's that kind of vibe, I think. Okay, what would you rate this one out of 10?
I give it an 8.
I give it an 8 too. We're kind of on the same page here. Yeah, I'll give it an 8 too. A bit spoiled at the end. I'm kind of with you there. But I think this was coherent from start to finish. Really enjoyed it. Didn't need that end graphic. I like. It's a shame Queequeg's gone now, but you know the X-Files famously gets rid of really good characters at a drop of a hat, and Queequeg's no exception, right? It's kind of a bit of a shame. I did enjoy it. I do like these ones where they drive off, they just rock up at some town and do their business. Some of those ones are some of the best episodes, right?
I think so.
Last one I really enjoyed of this kind was probably that Syzygy one. That was, no, actually, there's been loads. War of the Coprophages is similar, isn't it? But yeah, I do like those ones. I especially like it when they're at odds for some reason. And there was a bit of that here, wasn't there, with the sitting on the rock talking about Mulder's obsessions. It's kind of cool. But yeah, so very enjoyable. Okay, let's call it a night there. So next time we're going to be covering Kolchak, right? We're going to do the first 4 episodes of the Kolchak series, starting with the one about Jack the Ripper. You looking forward to that?
Excited.
I know you're such a Jack the Ripper fan, aren't you?
Yeah.
So we'll be covering those 4. I think those 4 also involve the only one that's kind of a sequel to one of the films, which is called The Vampire. It's a sequel to The Night Stalker, so that'd be interesting too. So looking forward to that. Probably in a week, maybe a little more, you know, given our schedules and stuff. But soon we'll be coming back to you with Kolchak, and after that we'll be finishing off season 3. So that's kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay then. So bye from me.
Bye from me.
And remember, they're watching.
I'd rather be liberated. I find myself